Subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to never miss an update.
Interact with people. If there is a domain that you are interested in, right, try understanding from them what's really going on. What's the most important trend which is happening? Understand the trends and keep upskilling yourself for that.
Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of Conversations in Quarantine. We've been doing this for the last 3 weeks now, and I think we are getting better at it. We've noticed something interesting that has happened on our platform lately. Interest around HR as a profession, HR practitioners, HR courses has gone up on Inside IIM, and that's probably because people are going through this lockdown and trying to figure out what's going to be the future of the workforce, about jobs, about recruitment, about generally what are the kind of careers that are possible within HR. That is why it gives me a lot of pleasure to introduce you to someone who's a true blue HR professional, right from her education to the kind of work she's done. She's a thorough HR professional. Harshita, thank you so much for doing this with us.
Thank you, Kunj, for having me here. I've done some work with Inside IIM before. I've always been a big fan of the kind of work that you guys do.
Okay, Harshita, to begin with, was HR always the plan? Because you joined TISS, which is a very specific, focused HR program for an MBA. So was HR always the plan? How did you stumble upon the TISS program?
Yes, I joined TISS, but before that, if my education is seen, I'm a science student, did then got a postgraduate in history. TISS actually was something my mom said, why don't you give it a try? I come from a background where parents are professionally qualified, and they did
Right.
think I should get one of those. And at my point in time, I said, okay, I'll do that. And I went ahead and gave TISS. I think it from the start, from the interview, the GD, the feel of the campus, I fell in love with it.
Right.
I learned everything about HR on that campus. For me, the love of HR grew as the time was spent. As I started learning what HR is all about, uh, kind of insights into people, TISS also is slightly differently defined in terms of giving you exposure to a lot of humanities, a lot of development studies, social work. So this sort of encompasses a number of things around it. So for me, the love has grown over a period of time, and I think it grows every day with what I do within the domain.
So the Harshita who entered TISS and the Harshita who exited TISS, what were some of the things that had changed in her completely as a professional?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that TISS gave me was an ability to think holistically. You know, it teaches you to think of any thought in your mind, any aspect that you are learning, think of ramifications, think of where it is coming from, think of who all may get impacted. We had professors who came from very different backgrounds, right? And they sort of taught us how HR fitted into different things, and I think as a whole professional, you move out of that campus with that holistic thinking. So that word always has stuck with me from when I've moved on from campus and does really help in everything that I do today. Also, I think the way today all the MBAs are designed, even HR for that matter, our subject, our syllabi or curriculum also had aspects of finance, had aspects of business, had all of that put together. So HR MBA today is put together to make us an HR professional, but in a business context. And I think that's another wonderful thing, the way that HR curricula are being defined.
Fresh out of campus, you hit your first job, which is at Cadbury's. Now it's Mondelez. Sometimes your education doesn't really prepare you for what's happening in the professional world. So, what was that first year like?
I think it was one of the most wonderful experiences I've had. It's almost 12 years from that time today. But as I speak to you, even today, I have goosebumps for my first 6 to 9 months in Cadbury. And I think the best part about that time was we were made to do work on the ground. I remember my first assignment in Cadbury was as a sales officer in the Chennai Metro. I didn't know the language. I didn't understand 75% of the stuff that was being said to me, but that taught me what it means to be a salesman, what it means to be a sales officer. So I'll always credit my first 9 months in Cadbury as being like the laying foundation of me becoming an HR professional. It taught me to have ears on the ground.
What were some of the things that you picked up saying that, okay, these are the qualities that a good salesperson should be having, and these are the qualities that I'm going to look for as an HR person going forward?
I think one of the biggest things as a salesperson or in the sales function you need to have is resilience, right? It's not always going to be that any of the brand is going to be on the top, but when that time comes, are you resilient enough to make sure that you will get through it and get there? The second thing is that excitement of taking up a challenge, that excitement of saying I will hit my number. And the third thing is just loving customer interactions, and especially being able to be ready to crack any customer. See, when as a salesperson you're saying no, I'm going to crack it come what may. I'm going to figure it out and crack that. I think those are some of the things, but also that humaneness of, are you able to connect with people? Because we have to understand salesperson exists in like an ecosystem. So you're talking to a pan wala or a chai shop. You're also talking to a metro cash and carry owner. You're talking to your boss. You're talking to your team. So their ability to navigate these human interactions is the other piece that that they definitely need to have edge on.
After that, you moved to Colgate Palmolive, again a true blue sales organization, FMCG organization that's known for having trained really high quality sales professionals, marketing professionals. How many years into your career were you post TISS? And what was your role like over there? And what were some of the things that you did over there?
So I joined Colgate about 2 years in the corporate world. So I was about a couple of years of experience. Colgate is where I honestly say I grew up. I grew up in that organization as a professional. I did multiple roles. Also, I learned that within sales, each of the regions within the country behaves very differently, right? It's a very different profile of people that you're dealing with. So let me say this. When you go to the South, the clientele, if I may call for HR people, our sales officers, our leaders, they'll come across as extremely mature people, extremely thought out people. They'll do everything after thinking 3 steps ahead of how it may happen, etc. Dial down to the same profile, say in the north. I'm not being like regionalistic here, but it's just the difference of reaction from also the regions that we come from. It'll be a very different reaction. It's more on the go. It's more let's get it done. So the profile of your clientele differs in regions. I truly believe that you can train for skills, but you hire for attitude, right? And that's one thing that I learned also. I then did a central learning and development role in Colgate. Got a lot of opportunity to work on leadership coaching, leadership development, really getting into how do you add value from coaching into a leader and what's the impact it can show as it comes. And then the last one thing I always felt as an HR professional, I couldn't get in FMCG to work in a factory. And as I said, the whole get your hands dirty, be on the ground thing, which was built in me from the beginning, said factory role, so I have to do. So I went to the new factory that Colgate had set up in Chennai again and did a training and development role there. A very different experience working with people who spoke very different language. How do you ground up build the training piece over there? Because we were hiring first generation workers. And how do you sort of work with team members who are first generation into work and upskill them again in the culture of the company, plus the skills that they need to have.
There's a perspective here, Harshita, that a lot of students are reluctant to take, one is non-HR roles and specifically factory roles. It has an impact on your lifestyle, right? Like you can't go out and party because factory locations are typically not in a very nice metro.
Yes.
So what would you want to say to those students who are always reluctant to take up factory roles or non-head office roles?
I would only say this, that see, all of us design our careers in the way we would like them to be. If you're intending not to do a factory role and wanting to build a career in, say, an FMCG or a consumer durables, etc., it might be a big miss, because that's where what we earn money from is getting produced. If you're not really seeing that, also, all of us at one day would want to do the big job, right? A big job will need to have someone who's had perspectives of all these things, right? So I really, really feel that as an HR professional, we should take these steps and navigate our career through these different things, because then it really builds us to, one, do the big job one day, which all of us would like to do, and two, truly builds us as an HR professional.
Harshita, there is a clear trend here. You're building a career in a sales and marketing kind of setup in two companies that are big FMCGs, really popular FMCGs. What made you move out of those roles and then go to some place like Honeywell where you'll be swarming with engineers rather than salespersons? So, what was the thought behind that?
I think I truly take pride on being an FMCG truly bred person. I really thought that why not experiment with the skills that I have learned in a totally different environment? Why not see if what I've really built as content, can I really experiment with it in another environment?
Harshita, now I want to talk about our current situation, which we are in as a globe, as a planet itself right now, which is the whole COVID-19 situation, and that's definitely going to have an impact on hiring plans and plans of companies on expansion, the kind of talent they want to attract, etc. And I'm asking you more as an HR professional and not as a representative of Freshworks.
Sure.
What are some of the trends that you see emerging in the recruitment space for youngsters, especially? What are some of the trends that you think they should be cognizant of at this stage?
I think one of the things that all of us, whether it's a youngsters or any employable population at this time, should understand is how are you building more skills within yourself, right? I'm not saying it's not
Right.
going to be a domain expert, but it'll be great to have adjacent skills with it, right? Because they may come into use. So that's one thing I really feel people should focus on. The other thing is resilience. Okay, we are all. I think that's really a competence to be built in. Organizations also want to look for people who can get up and say, okay, we'll deal with this, right?
Right.
So I think that's one thing that we should keep in mind, that whether ambiguity now or ambiguity later are things which happen, but we should have that resilience and build multiple adjacent skills within your domain.
If I am a final year grad right now, I've just finished my education and I'm supposed to be looking for a job, but right now I'm not going to be able to. Whether I am an MBA or just finished my undergrad, what are some of the things that I can do right now to, as you mentioned, upskill myself, get my attitude right?
I think, especially in the situation that we are, a number of platforms have just gone, have just done a full blast of the kind of spaces that are available to learn, right?
Right.
So keep learning, keep upskilling yourself, and keep at it, because there's just so much that you can do. The second thing is, um, also interact with people. If there is a domain that you are interested in, right? Interact with people in that domain. Try understanding from them what's really going on. What's the most important trend which is happening? Understand the trends and keep upskilling yourself for that, right? Because to be very honest, there's so much to learn that you can just get into the vast ocean of learning and keep learning. But you also need to know that domain, what are the trends? Talk to some of those people, figure out those skills. And today the world is so cool, really. You send a LinkedIn message to a person who's in the same domain, most of the professionals respond and say, okay, tell me what's the question, would you like to speak to me? I think just do that.
There is going to be a lot of change in how organizations run, how business is conducted, because of a variety of things that have happened in the last few months and also last few years. So in that sense, the job of an HR professional also is going to change over time, I feel. So in what ways is that going to impact the profession?
HR has to become the trend sensor of people trends, right? Because
Right.
one of the things all businesses have realized is that, and we've always said this, that people make the cut of highly successful or whatever and successful business, let's say that. So, and in a hyper growth organization like ours, for example, or in a very stable organization, even like Nestle, the next big leap is going to come if people are going to start doing that discretionary effort that they are supposed to. So can HR today become the trend sensor, right? And the business starts also operating with those trends and making sure that people are at their highest level of efficiency, productivity, and happiness. To never forget the last bit, which is happiness of doing the job that I do. So let's become the trend sensor for that.
How do you think the job will transform in a remote working gig economy kind of a setup? How do you think an HR professional's job is going to change?
I think there are certain pieces we've always been doing, but certain parts of our job are going to become more pronounced. For example, I've always been a very believer of saying engage with people, ears in the ground, etc., etc. How you're really going to do that when your whole population is today going to be distributed, right? How you're going to maintain those engagement levels. Also, let's understand, people right now are going through a lot of anxiety also, right? There is just so much of anxiety, ecosystem wise, health wise, etc., etc. How as HR are you going to step in to solve for some of these? So some parts of our job are going to be very pronounced: engagement, sensing, making sure managers are able to understand what do they need to do in this environment, how are they supposed to lead teams, because that's one layer which is going to need support, right?
Right.
They haven't had a distributed force earlier. How are we going to support them, right? Those are two three things I really feel are going to be very important. We have to treat even the employees within the company as a customer of what HR does. So everything I will do to a customer to say that this is how it is going to positively impact you, this is why you should latch on to it, it's all a brand communication and marketing campaign.